Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney and today I am here with part 2 of my one pattern 3 ways. This time around we're doing the Anna Allen Patterns Persephone Pants. Last week I showed you guys, I'll leave a link up to that video, I showed you guys my version, which was probably the one as close to as drafted that I'll make. But that is the regular cropped wide leg. I mean the shorts are also part of the pattern, but it's the cropped wide leg pant, sailor pant really, fitted through the hips and it sits at your natural waist, or supposed to sit right at your natural waist. I do want to say, someone pointed it out and I totally just skipped over talking about it. The little patch pockets that I put on the front of my pants do come with the pattern. Those are actually meant though to be sewn on the inside, so you have two, where the waistband connects to the pants, you have two little pockets that are kind of invisible almost, that are right there, and that's what those little pockets pattern pieces are for those little inside pocket pieces. I just don't know, not that I use the little patch pockets at all, they just add visual interest. So I don't know that it's worth it for me to put an invisible pocket into a pair of pants that aren't going to be functional. You know, if I'm going to have a unfunctional pair of a pocket and I want it there for aesthetic reasons. So anyway, but yes, those pockets are actually meant to be on the inside of the pants, right at the waistband, kind of like a sailor pant, invisible. But yes, I took those pattern pieces and I put them on the outside to make two little patch pockets, just to add some interest to the front part of the jeans. So that was last week. Now I've had a lot of questions about how these pants are fit since there's no side seam. There's a dart in the back, and I am obviously very straight through my hips and waist. I don't have a lot of curve to my hip. I'm a rectangle in that. My hips and boobs are a very similar width. My boobs are a little bit wider, but not much, like half inch. Depends on maybe an inch, depends on fluctuations in my weight. But definitely from the front, I'm very much almost inverted triangle, but very much rectangular with very little delineation for my natural waist, a little bit, but not much. So anyway, obviously I do fine with not having the shaping there on the outside, just skipping those side seams. Now, for someone that does have a big hip to waist ratio, my daughter's built that way. She has a very curvy hip line, beautiful, wish I had it. But, you know, always wish you had what you didn't, the other way. But anyway, I have seen quite a few people on Instagram make the pants that do have a large hip to waist ratio that have made these pants, and it's looked really, really well. So I don't know if it's a matter of them just taking in a deeper dart at the back to fit the waist better, and then, I mean, you have some play in the center back seam too, but there are those waist darts where you could definitely play around with shaping. Now these sit high enough that maybe a straight waistband is fine no matter what your body is, but there's also the option of doing a curved waistband if you wanted to play around with the waistband piece. Anyway, I am going to show you the pattern pieces and what they look like. I'm also going to show you, I opt to do and I'll be doing it on all 3 pairs, a grown-on fly piece onto the front crotch curve. It's just my preferred method of putting in a fly, and I'm showing you how I kind of made that happen. I have had a lot of questions on how I do sew in the fly, so I've shown you how I cut the fly today, but next week I can do a quick little tutorial and show you how I sew in the fly zipper. I have a tutorial like that on my channel, but I mean, I can show it again. It's not nearly as hard as people make it out to be. It's a pretty easy thing, actually. I can pop one in pretty quickly. So I can definitely show you that next week. And also next week, I'm going to be making my full-length pants. So I'm hacking the pattern and just adding straight length down from the hem to make full-length pants. I'm going to be using linen, and if you've ever made linen pants, even though this waistband's completely interfaced, if you've ever made linen pants, you know that linen tends to grow in heat, i.e. when it's been on your body for any amount of time. So I'm actually going to be cutting the waistband in 2, because this waistband is just one rectangular piece that gets folded in on itself. So I'm actually going to be cutting the waistband in 2 and adding a seam allowance onto the top and showing you a trick for putting in twill tape into the top part of that seam allowance, and that really helps your waistband waist not stretch out, especially if you have linen pants that do tend to grow throughout the course of the day, which I don't think is a big deal as long as they anchor in place. So as long, if my pants tend to like get a little looser in my hips and butt area throughout the day, especially a wide leg pant like that, I'm not very concerned about. That's fine. In fact, it makes it even more comfortable. But if my waist grows, then they start to fall down a little bit, and then when you don't have a hip curve, they really fall down, and then they just look sloppy and not good. So I want those to stay right there at my waist, and because I don't have a large hip to waist ratio, I really need the pants to grip that area. So I'll be showing that next week. But let's talk about today. So for today's pattern, this is another view of the pattern, is shorts. So again, I have made, just like last week's, I've made a straight size 8. I do cut the tight size 10 waistband just because I like having a little bit of extra play, because I do the fly differently than the pattern. The pattern has you actually putting in a button fly. And since I do my fly differently and I have the grown-on pleat pieces and stuff on both sides, I just go ahead and cut the size 10 waistband, which is basically adding on length to the ends. It just gives me a little bit more room to make sure that I'm, getting my fly shield part that goes behind and all that jazz. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. So other than that though, everything, I didn't grade between sizes at all. This is a straight size 8, and I have taken a scoop out of the back crotch curve. Someone asked me why I do that. My butt goes out. It used to be more of a bubble butt before kids. Now it's a little less, but my butt still does, even when I put on weight, it goes big out, not wide, just the way I'm built. And I usually need a longer travel distance on my rear end so that I don't get the wedgie. So if you get the wedgie effect really easily in your pants, I mean, it could be a couple of different things, but something to try is just scooping out the crotch curve in the back just a little bit. I do 3/8 of an inch. I just make that curve 3/8 of an inch deeper right at the deep curve of that area. I don't mess with the length of the crotch curve or anything. I just scoop it out a little bit, and that gives the extra room that my butt needs to fill that area. So that's why I do the scoop. It's just the way my butt's shaped. So, can I say butt anymore in this video? Okay, so that's the only alterations that I've made to this. I have used for this pair, I believe this is actually a rayon, and I would call it almost a Rayon Jaquard. It's a bottom weight rayon because these stripes are woven into the fabric. So it's kind of a, like a muddy brown / ochre color on the background, because I definitely get some yellows and greens that are in that brown. And then the stripe is white, and that's black that's in there, which I don't wear a lot of black. But this was a remnant on the fabric stores, the New Zealand shop on their website, I don't know, a while back, and I grabbed it because it was less than a meter, and I thought, oh, that'd be a really cool pair of shorts. So I grabbed it. Now, one happy thing is that the stripes on this fabric actually run horizontal selvage to selvage, but there's a little bit of stretch. I measure, well, more than a little bit. There's 20% stretch lengthwise, so going perpendicular to the selvage. So typically when you have stretch in a fabric, it's selvage to selvage, you get a little pull. There's no stretch going selvage to selvage on this, but there is some stretch going lengthwise. So cut edge to cut edge, about 20%. And I like the idea of actually having my stripes run vertical anyway, so I cut them that way, and it has been, I mean, it's perfect. It gives them just a little bit of wiggle room. So last week's jeans did not have any stretch. This week's pants have about 20% stretch, which make them just a little bit more comfortable. Now I've completely interfaced the waistband, and I cut the waistband selvage to selvage, so there's no stretch in the waistband, which helps, again, it helps anchor it to my body. Otherwise, I can hardly have any stretch in my waistbands. Otherwise, if they stretch out even a little bit, I shouldn't say that, a knit pant or a ponte pant or something, obviously there's gonna be stretch in the waistband, leggings, that kind of thing, but I just really need things to hug. I don't have a hip shelf to keep my pants up. So if things start to fall, they start to fall. And then they just look really sloppy really quickly. So completely interfaced waistband, and I talk about it in the video I'll show you here in a second, but she has you only interfacing half the waistband. I just go ahead and do the whole thing. That's just my preference. So again, this is the grown on. I just love the way these look. So again, vertical stripes, I think they're gonna be super flattering this summer. I'll be interested to see though how different ways I can find to pair with this fabric. You know, typically, while this color is in my color range, I don't wear black. I mean, that's just my preference. I don't have hardly any black in my wardrobe. So we'll see like how I'm able to pair these, and if this is maybe one of those surprise pieces that I'm like, ooh, actually I have a ton that'll go with these. So I'm excited to play with these this summer. I didn't do anything with the patch pockets this time, but obviously I have my belt loops. I did put on back pockets, and I did them horizontally. Now, this is gonna draw your eye to the butt, so keep that in mind when you're if you're putting playing around with stripes. Look at that stripe matching though. Look at those chevrons right at that crotch curve. Anyway, and there are darts which distort the stripes up here at the top a little bit, but it will draw your eye to the butt. So if you're not comfortable with that, obviously you would probably want to either omit the pockets or make them match the stripe. The thought of trying, number one, it wouldn't have been able to match the stripe because I have a dart here. So the stripes are cattywampus in that area. You can kind of see the stripe right there because of the dart. I think that would have bothered me. So I went horizontal. As far as placement, these are actually the pockets from the Megan Nielsen Dawn jeans. I just went on to my PDF pattern of the Dawns, and you could use any back pocket that you want. I just happened to, that was fresh in my mind because I just made a pair, and I just printed off a new one. I could have used the one from the Megan Nielsen Dawn pattern, but I thought I'll just leave this pattern piece with this pattern, and it gives me more options if I want to mess around with back pockets. I think I might put back pockets on the linen pair too. But as far as placement, I went off of the jeans that I was actually wearing the day that I made these. I just measured down. They were also sitting at they're my Mountain View jeans, but they were sitting at my waist. So I measured down where those pockets are, and that's where I put them on this one. So those can move around. I did the fly on this one. I put a snap here at the top instead of a button just for something different. So, I have a lot of basting stitches that I still need to pull out of the front of my pants here. That'll make better sense to you when I show you how I put my fly in, but I do baste the front. And this is just a metal vintage zipper in my stash that I hit with some candle wax. These vintage zippers, I have a whole bunch of them that I got. They just don't glide well, so I have to hit them with some candle wax, and that does seem to help. What else? I put the snap. It's just a spring snap that I had from my stash. Nothing fancy about that. You could do a button. But yeah, did that. I think with this pattern, I could probably, to have it fit perfectly, I made my pleather pants and I took an inch out of the rise all the way around. And those fit fine. They sit like, the top of the waistband sits right underneath the smallest part of my waist. But then I decided, maybe I do want the regular rise. So for my jeans last week, I put that inch back in, and like I said, the middle of the waistband, and this isn't a very thick waistband, but the middle of the waistband sits right at my natural waist. So technically I should probably cut it in the middle and do half. And I could do that for my linen pair, and I might. These I didn't mess with. It's the same rise, and they are a little, they do come up really high, but I do like those with boxier kind of cropped shirts so that no midsection is showing. But I have to be careful. So I was listening to the Everyday Style podcast recently, just because I like to have either the TV on or I'll put it on my headphones. And she was talking about, I think, the top 3 or 5 ways of making your clothes look good without having to know your body type. So just, it had nothing to do with your body type. Just these 3 things would make your clothes look better on your body. And it was fit. She very much recommends going to see a tailor, which obviously we make our own clothes. So, but fit was one. Knowing your good colors was one. And then another one was proportion, and just knowing for your body what proportions are best for you. So where the hems of your pants should hit, and whether that be ankle pants or crop pants, where those look best on your leg, where your shirt hems should end, what necklines are best on you, what sleeve lengths look best on your arm, and all that kind of stuff, which is a carrot that I feel like I'm constantly chasing. And I've mentioned before that I'm very short-waisted. So my torso I'm very short from the waist up proportionately than I am from the waist down. So I have a large bust, which usually lets me get away with wearing things that aren't necessarily petite, or not having to do a petite adjustment in all of my clothing, because that extra length gets eaten up by my chest, basically, to go over my boobs. It's definitely more pronounced in my back. So, you know, growing up and stuff, when I would try and buy a fitted dress, like a sheath dress, I always had massive amounts of pooling at my waist, which could have been somewhat of a sway back adjustment because, again, my butt was much bubblier before kids and when I was younger. But I think most of it was just I'm very short, especially my back. From my waist to the back of my neck, I'm super short. The same with the front. It's just the boobs can trick that measurement quite a bit. But my waist is also super high. So when I have things sitting at my natural waist, it's fine, and it can make my legs look a mile long because technically I have long legs for my height. I'm only 5'2", but my inseam is almost, it's like 29.5 inches from my inseam to the floor, which is pretty long for a 5'2" person. So I'm like, my legs were always a little bit too long to wear petite pants, but too short. I would have to hem things if I was buying things that were regular. Now petite tops always fit me much better, especially like knit tops and stuff that would, you know, cover my bust and stretch over my bust. You know how it goes. And petite dresses and stuff would always fit me best. But I find, yeah, so proportionately, those are my proportions. So finding things, and it all depends on how I want the eye to look. I think because I'm short-waisted, having a lower, I say low rise, I'm not talking Britney Spears low rise. I'm talking, you know, from like 2000. I'm talking a mid-rise, so maybe an inch to an inch and a half below my belly button. Can be, I'm currently wearing my Tiara woven joggers from Itch to Stitch, and that's a lower rise woven jogger. Those make my torso look not necessarily long. It makes it look longer and makes me look a little bit like I have more of a natural, a normal side length of torso. So, you know, I do a little half tuck and stuff that can lengthen my torso, but it shortens my legs. Again, proportionately, my legs are a little bit longer, so that isn't always a bad thing. But if I want to wear high-waisted things, that does shorten my torso. The bras have helped because you want to lift the boobs. You definitely want there to be visual distance between your waist and your boobs. The new bras have helped. But that will make my legs look a mile long, but it can make my torso look a little bit shorter. So it's all about playing with proportion, and I think it comes to, I've figured out for me, there's no like perfect way. I like wearing high-waisted pants just because that's on trend right now. And I think it's fun to play around with that proportion. Will I always wear high-waisted pants? No. Are mid-rise pants probably better on my figure? Probably. But, you know, I like to play around with the proportion, and sometimes I want my legs to look long. We're using this all, you know, relative terms. I'm only 5'2". So, is anything on me long? No. Technically, no. But we're talking in relation to other parts of my body. So anyway, that being said, that was a long talk on proportion. I have jabbered at you for 18 minutes. This is going to be a long video. That being said, I am enjoying the higher waisted look for now. So we'll see how long that goes. Oh, that blabber. So yes, this pant, I will put footage of me in them right now so you can see what they look like on. Really loving them. I just think they're a lot of fun. You know, I'll probably put some mid-rise shorts into my summer wardrobe as well, and I think I am going to purchase the next capsule wardrobe for summer from Everyday Style. You know, just for me, I just am really finding that easy to plan out my sewing and to help me focus and make, you know, have just a couple of things. And I've done a lot of shopping for my closet. So on that note, I did want to say, before I send you over to the cutting table, next week I am going to, for the wardrobe series, I'm going to be showing you everything that I shopped from my closet and what I'll be pulling into my wardrobe. And then the following week, I'm going to be talking about plans. Now, hopefully by the time you're even seeing the plans video, I've already made these things because there's only a few things. And that's going to be more of like the second part of the module. So you'll be seeing, over the next weeks, both the finished module plans that I showed you not that long ago, and then also, because those are going into this capsule, and then also a few other things that I'm gonna make that are kind of a second module, I guess you could think of it that way. The capsule is just kind of a whole bunch of those little modules put together. But I've done a lot of shopping from my closet. So we'll be going over the things that I'm pulling from my closet, and I'm actually gonna show you a couple of things that I've purchased, which include a couple pairs of shoes, a couple pieces of jewelry, because I'm showing you everything, my accessories, my jewelry, my shoes, everything that's going into this capsule, and kind of how I'm doing that a little bit more. So that's on Tuesday. Okay, I'm gonna send you to the cutting table now and show you how I cut things out and all that kind of thing. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see you next Friday for the last part of the One Pattern 3 Ways. Have a good weekend, guys, and I'll see you on Sunday for more of the sew along. Bye. Okay, so I've had a lot of questions. I should have gone over this with last week's video, but I didn't, so we'll go over it today. All right, these are obviously the shorts. The pants look exactly the same. They're literally just longer, and they don't have the little, cut in because of the hem on the shorts, obviously, where you're folding it back so it's trued there on the sides. That's the only difference. So I am making these shorts a straight size 8, which is what I made for last week's pair as well. I do cut the size 10 waistband only because I do my fly different than what she has you doing in the pattern, and I just need the extra length in order for it to go over the grown on fly on both sides plus the shield in the back. So that's kind of I want to explain that. And then I had a lot of questions about the fitting on these and how this fits. Now, I'm a very rectangular shape in that my hip to waist ratio is not very, I'm very straight in my body through that. I don't have a very curvy hip line, and my waist to hip ratio is not very large. My daughter, for instance, is the opposite. She does have a very curvy hip line, and her waist to hip ratio is much larger than what mine is. And so I've not made these for her, so I don't know how that works on that body type. However, I've seen quite a few of the people that have made these on Instagram that do have that figure, and it looks fantastic. So the only way that, you've got your shaping here and your dart, you've got a back dart. So this is the back part of the shorts or pants. This is the front, obviously. This notch here marks where the side seam would be if there was one. So I think that you can definitely get a lot more waist shaping if you just take a larger dart here. And then I think you might be, you may want to, at that point, I would definitely do a muslin, obviously, but you may want to do a contoured waistband as opposed to just the straight rectangular waistband that comes with the pattern. But it may come up high enough that a rectangular waistband is fine, because this really does, it's a high, it comes above, the center of the waistband hits right at the narrowest part of my waist, right at my actual waist. So you want to take that into consideration. All right, so this pattern has you doing a button fly and does not include the fly on the front, but you guys know I prefer a grown-on fly. It's just the way I like, and I put zippers in on these. So what I've done is I've taken the fly facing, which is, it's the same, it's what you would use for this anyway. It's just that you sew it on just one side in the regular pattern. And I just lined my dot up to my dot here, and then line it up here. And there should be 3/4 of an inch of overlap because it's a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Obviously, I had shortened the rise of this an inch, and so all of my pieces were cut down an inch, and I decided I did want the regular rise. I think I mentioned before, I'm long from my waist down, I am longer than from my waist up proportionally. Obviously, the actual measurement for everyone is longer from the waist down than from the waist up. But I usually don't have to do a lot of fitting adjustments sometimes, because I am still only 5'2", but a lot of times I can get away without having to do that. So once I have overlapped here, I just put my washers down, and then I'll just cut this out all as one piece. Another thing that I'm doing different on this, I have actually, you can see over there on the far side, that's not lined up. I've literally just thrown the only thing that's on grain right now is just the actual body of the shorts. But I've grabbed the Megan Nielsen Dawn jean pocket only because I've recently made the Megan Nielsen Dawns, and so I just printed out another of that pattern piece, and I'm going to put those on my shorts. And I've marked here on my short pattern where I want the pocket to sit. And I'll mark those on, you know, my fabric once I have cut everything out. I think that's going to work. I was measuring from an actual pair of pants that I own where I kind of like the pockets. So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. And I think because I'm using a stripe, I've also, this fabric, the stripe actually runs selvage to selvage, horizontally selvage to selvage, and I want my stripes vertical. So I'm cutting it out on the cross grain, but actually this fabric has some stretch to it, but it's lengthwise stretch. So by cutting it out on the cross grain, I'm getting the stretch around my body as opposed to up and down. So I'll be using that to a little bit of advantage, and that's how another way it's going to differ from last week's pair. Last week was made in a rigid denim with no stretch, just a cotton denim, and yeah, so you'll be able to see the differences there. So this one, and I'll measure the stretch percentage and tell you what that is. It's not a lot, maybe 10 or 15% probably, but I will measure that and let you know, just so you, if you're wanting to do something similar. So what I'm using for this pair is the body of the shorts, which is the front and back. You cut it out twice, so it's one for each leg. I'm cutting out, I'm putting obviously my little fly piece here onto that, so it'll be all one when I've cut it out. I will cut out 2 of this piece in interfacing though. And then I will cut 1 out for my belt loops. I will cut only 1 out for my waistband because this gets folded in half. She has separate interfacing pieces for your waistband where you're just interfacing half. I just prefer to have a fully interfaced waistband in this type of pant. So I just cut out my interfacing for the whole piece. So I don't use her interfacing piece. And then I will cut out 1 of the underlap pieces. And obviously I've had to add the inch back in that I cut off. And that will be the fly shield, kind of goes on the back of the pants behind the zipper. So protects my body from the zipper. And that's it. And then my back pocket piece, and that is it for these shorts. So yeah, I think this is going to be work really well. So we will wait and see. But yeah, I'll give you the information on the stretch percentage that is in this. This is a woven rayon, I guess you would kind of call it a jacquard. This is actually a remnant that I bought from the fabric store. But the stripes are woven in, and it has texture to it. It's got, you know, the stripes are raised. But I thought this was kind of, this color, this ochre brown color is in my color palette. So we're going to play around, even though there's black in there. And yeah, see how these work in my wardrobe. Alrighty, let me know if you have any questions. And if there's anything I haven't covered in this, I will definitely cover it in next week, which will be the last week for the Persephone pants. Oh, I also want to make I do a little bit more of a scoop here in the back crotch curve. I do that on all my pants because it's just the way my butt's shaped. But I take it in 3/8 of an inch and just scoop out that curve a little bit because I need that extra room there. So yes, that is the only alteration though that I have made to this pattern for fit. Alrighty.